Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, my 29 female sister Ella, 28 female, has a history of making everything about her and playing victim when she gets caught out, since she's technically our half-sister because my mom had an affair. Long story. Now, I couldn't give a single duck about Ella being an affair baby because it wasn't her fault, and our parents are still married, so we weren't raised as half-siblings. It's what she does that makes me resent her. Like, I can't even remember a birthday, graduation, or life event that she hasn't made about her. But God forbid anyone gets upset, because Ella has an issue due to being our half-sister and raised by a man who pretended to be her dad for 13 years. Some examples. For our youngest sibling's graduation, she announced her engagement. 3 of my milestone events were about health scares, breakups, that she didn't care about the next day. Brother's wedding, she met her bio dad, no heads up, then spent the whole day trying to get dad, mom, and bio dad, dad's ex-best friend, to talk. Even grandma's funeral wasn't safe from her. There's lots, and I mean lots of other examples, but you get the idea. I'm getting married in mid-July, and my brother told me, brother-in-law, while drunk, let it slip Father's Day that Ella is pregnant. I knew she'd announce it at my wedding, probably do some big reveal too. So there and then, I just got on social media and said, "Congratulations, Ella and brother-in-law, on the baby news. Can't wait for your gender reveal when you find out on the 2nd of July. Then turned off my phone. Our mom and Ella were extremely upset I took this special moment away from her, and I had no right to announce anyone's pregnancy. I simply said I knew she'd do it at my wedding, so I got there before she did. Then I asked Ella, how does it feel for someone to take a special moment away from you? Ella tried to deny and defend herself, but my brother's wife started screaming about stuff she did to her, followed by our youngest sister, and it ended up in Ella having a panic attack. Our parents want us to make up, but Ella says she wants an apology first, before she'll even try to mend our relationship or let me be in her son's life. She also called me an a-hole for assuming the worst in her. Well done, OP. Looks like Ella got a taste of her own medicine. Someone had to stop her. Unfortunately, many people think that you should be the bigger person, the kinder person. It does work with many people, but not with everyone, especially with narcissists like Ella. OP should tell her mom and Ella that she will apologize as soon as they both make amends for what Ella has done to everyone in the past. No amends, no apology. OP's mother has helped create this monster. She can fix it, or have a messed up relationship with her children and partners for the rest of her life. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Wait until after the wedding if you're going to apologize, because I promise she will do something at your wedding if she's there to get you back. So if you don't apologize, she won't come. And hey, you didn't even have to uninvite her. Not the a-hole. Well done. Not the a-hole. It sounds to me like you're not the only one that Ella is upstaged and taken the limelight away from. You were probably right, that she would have announced her pregnancy at your wedding and done it again. So stepped out and nipped her plan in the bud. That's what she gets. What goes around finally comes around. You may want to apologize, if for no other reason than to have her at your wedding. Although, to be honest, I don't blame you if you don't much care. I hope your wedding turns out very nicely, and that everyone has a good time celebrating with you. Not the a-hole, but I would hire security for your wedding. I'm willing to bet she'll try to show up in white, or cause a big scene. I'd ban her altogether. We have a nanny, late 20s, who comes to watch our 3-year-old and 1-year-old when our work schedules overlap, or when we have to go out together for whatever reason. She's watching the kids between 10 to 20 hours a week. Recently, I came back and it was time to pay her, but she was in the middle of bathing the kids, so said, "Can you just put it in my purse?" I said, "No problem." I went downstairs and found her purse, but it was a little cluttered, so I put it in her wallet in her purse, so it would be easy to find and count. When I opened her wallet to put it inside, I couldn't help but see her ID in the transparent front pocket, and it had her photo, but her name was completely different from the one she had given us, and we had background checked when we had hired her. She's been great, so I didn't want to just fire her, but this meant she was either using a fake name with us or carrying a fake ID, so we had to see if she was trying to hide something relevant. She's someone who spends prolonged time alone with our kids, and as great as she seems to us, our kids can't really talk yet, so we can only know so much. My wife and I discussed it and decided to hire a private investigator to check into her, because whatever story she gave us if we confronted her, we'd take steps to verify it anyways. So it was best not to give her the opportunity to hide anything or backtrack. The private investigator discovered she had the ID to circumvent a bureaucratic rule about student living arrangements for the graduate school at her university. Something like she wanted to stay on the undergraduate campus when she became a graduate student, so used an undergrad friend's name on her ID to register for housing. Not a big deal. Then, unfortunately, unbeknownst to us, our 3-year-old overheard us talking about it and said something that tipped her off to the whole thing. We explained that we had become aware, looked into, but it was all fine now. She was very upset, said it was none of our business why she would have 2 IDs, and it was a violation of her privacy to look into her life instead of just asking her. Now she's even considering quitting. We feel awful, but are also weighing that with how awful we'd feel if we didn't do due diligence, and there was something serious to it. We're conflicted now, because she has always been wonderful. Am I the a-hole for hiring the private investigator? Edit. The ID was, what appeared to be, a state-issued driver's license. Sorry, should have mentioned that. Not the a-hole. She watches your kids. You have the right to know what her deal is. Also, someone's got to employ the private investigators. Am I right? But, on the other hand, she has every right to be upset and feel like you invaded her privacy, because you literally did. You literally hired someone to invade her privacy. Try giving her a raise to get her to stay maybe. Or let her go and hire a private investigator for the next nanny from the jump. Yes, the a-hole. I'm probably going to get downvoted to hell for this, but here goes nothing. You 100% violated her privacy. She said, "Put the money in my purse," not look through my bag and personal belongings and snoop around in my wallet. The 2 reasonable options upon your discovery of her ID are: 1. Fire her because you don't trust her and you feel she lied about her identity. Or 2. Sit her down like an adult, admit that you shouldn't have been snooping in her purse. Obviously, you should apologize for this, and ask her what the deal is with her second ID card. When she explained her reasoning, you can say, "Would you be willing to allow me to look into this? I'd like to make sure my kids are safe." Or you can not believe her and go back to option 1. What you did instead was go behind her back, proving you don't trust her, but secretly hoping you were wrong so you could keep her as an employee without her ever knowing that you also breached her trust. The employee-employer relationship is a 2-way street, dude. Yes, you need to be able to trust her, but she also needs to be able to trust y'all. If I were her, I'd quit too. My sister's been hanging out excessively with her new best friend, who she loves like a brother. They'll hang out on her days off and after work, but it's bothering my brother-in-law because apparently she goes out with her friend rather than spend time with her actual husband. A few months ago, my brother-in-law came to me and asked me if my sister had really accompanied myself, my husband, and my parents on an all-day road trip out to Michigan. In reality, my sister had not gone with us because she told me she had promised to help a friend move, but she had told my brother-in-law that she did go. She had left their place around 0600 hours and didn't come home until about 2300 hours. He thought she had gone to Michigan because she came back home with some apple pies and cider donuts from our favorite Michigan orchard. She had picked up those items from my parents who had bought them for her. The question had caught me off guard completely, and it was obvious that the answer was no. We both knew at that moment who she had been with. When my brother-in-law confronted her about some credit card purchases from that day that weren't in Michigan and nowhere near Michigan, she insisted the purchases were delayed from the week before. And she insisted she was even with us, though she didn't appear in any photos that were posted. She still doesn't know that my brother-in-law knows the truth. This is just one instance. The lies, deception, and hiding the truth about where she's been has been so much for my brother-in-law, and he doesn't know what to do. I don't know what to do. My husband and I think she's not physically cheating, but emotionally, if that's a thing. If I confront my sister, she might feel attacked and hate me and not talk to me. She's already upset that everyone keeps asking her if she's dating her best friend because of all the time they spend together. Also, she thinks her husband is okay with all this because they've talked it through and he's okay that she hangs out with this guy all the time. My brother-in-law says otherwise and has mentioned that they may need marriage counseling. I don't want his marriage counseling proposal to overwhelm her. She has anxiety. So, would I be the a-hole if I told her she's emotionally cheating on her husband? This isn't emotional cheating. It's straight up cheating. She is saying she's in one place when she's really with him. I would give her a timeline to tell him, and if she doesn't tell him by then, let her know you will. In any case, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but I would not be surprised if she's physically cheating. She's lying and not respecting her husband, marriage. You're right, she'll probably get defensive and guilt you, so back off. But she's being a total a-hole and cheating on her husband. I'd call her out. For the record, this happened on May 27th, the Friday before Memorial Day. My husband and I have been married for 40 years. He cheated once previously, but we worked through it with counseling, and he had assured me numerous times he was committed to spending the rest of his life with me. He was remorseful, and I believed him. I had applied for several short-term summer jobs when I got her phone call. She sounded rushed, and there was a lot of background noise, making it hard to hear her, and then she seemed to move to a quiet area. She very quickly said she had reviewed my application and asked if we could do an interview at a Starbucks at 3:30 that afternoon because she really needed a break from work and wanted to make a decision over the weekend. She gave me the address of the Starbucks, and it is a couple of blocks from my husband's office. I told her I knew where it was and asked her which position this was in reference to. She interrupted me, "See you at 3:30, and I assumed she hadn't heard me. I figured the position was for most likely a customer service position for vehicle repairs at a car dealership, because the other jobs I applied for were sales help at a local farmer's market and sales help in a local souvenir shop. I also decided that after the interview I would stop at my husband's office to tell him how it went, and maybe talk him into leaving work a little early. She was waiting at Starbucks. She was very well dressed in a business suit, matching skirt and blazer, very nice jewelry, very pretty makeup, nails and hair. Not what I was expecting. I was wearing khakis, loafers, and a white button-down shirt. I reached out to shake her hand. Stupid, I know, with virus, but it's my default. And she just stared at me, said my name, and I nodded, feeling very insecure. Then she fired off a series of questions about how I would work within a group. Am I a leader or a follower? Am I a negative person or a positive one? Am I a complainer or a problem solver? What are my relationships like? The questions became more personal. She asked about my marriage and my relationship with my husband. As I said before, he has cheated and my friends know, but it is not something I would bring up in a job interview. I told her I was married to a good guy and we were very happy. She suddenly looked at her phone and said she would be in touch, and she left. I was shocked. I sat there for a minute or two knowing that I had failed the interview, that I had answered the small talk questions wrong, so she had never gotten to the actual interview. So I drove to my husband's office to ask him if he wanted to go out for dinner, and while I was driving in the parking lot towards the entrance of his building, I saw her walking towards the door. She badged in. She works in his building. His last affair partner was someone he worked with. I parked my car and sat there for a few minutes. As I was trying to decide if I wanted to go in, I got a text from my husband. "Have a business dinner tonight, we'll be late." And I knew. I absolutely knew. I texted him back, "Anyone bringing their wives?" And he replied immediately, "LOL, not tonight. The Brits eat late. Dinner at 8 at their hotel." And all the trust I had rebuilt was gone. I drove home. No surprise that I got a text at 10:30 that he'd had too much to drink and was going to stay at the hotel. The next day was Saturday, and I decided to call the number the interviewer had called me from. She answered immediately, and I told her who I was. She said, "We hired someone else, bye." And then I guess she blocked my number. I don't know if she got my number from my husband's phone. There are signs in the break rooms with my phone number, because I will pick up donations for the food bank, and there's a donation bin in each break room. I contacted a divorce lawyer on May 31st. He hired a private investigator on my behalf. He was able to check my husband's credit report and found a credit card I was unaware of, with a balance of $18,000, which is very disturbing. Aside from our mortgage, we are debt-free. Our cars have been paid off for years, and he paid cash for his newest, used car several years ago. A large part of his pay goes to his retirement fund, because most of the jobs I have had did not have benefits, due to the fact that I always wanted to be home nights and weekends once our first child was born, and because we moved often, as my husband was transferred to different locations. He also has a credit card for business expenses when he travels, but he gets reimbursed for them. That credit card gets paid in full every month. The investigator confirmed my husband is having an affair. On June 6th, my husband told me he was going to Pennsylvania for 3 days, when he was actually staying at her house. On June 17th, he said he was going to New York for a weekend conference. He and she went to New York together. Without revealing any of this to him, I told him I had never really recovered from his infidelity and I wanted a divorce. He said I was his best friend, we were great together, and he worshipped me. I said I wanted separation at the very least, and he told me there was no way he was giving me half of his retirement if I walked out on our marriage. I know that's not the case, so it doesn't worry me. So that's where I'm at, knowing I was wrong to stay the first time he cheated. I'm secretly planning to leave as soon as I can find the right place for me and my pets, still trying to find a job, and really just looking forward to being alone. I have to finally admit it's true. Once a cheater, always a cheater. People who have divorced after a long marriage, how do you recover? Do you ever stop wondering what you could have done better? I seriously don't think I will ever have another relationship. I don't think I want to have another relationship. Listen to your lawyer's advice. When all is said and done, you can start over. It's fine if you don't want another relationship. It's also fine if you change your mind later on. You can live however you want. Just make sure you stay active instead of moldering away in your new home. My advice is to take time for yourself after your divorce is finalized. Date yourself, travel solo, and maybe make a bucket list now of what you want to do after you are divorced. I personally would try to have him served with divorce papers at work, and probably let HR know about their affair. Be sure to send a thank you to her for letting you know about your husband's cheating again, because after all, if it wasn't for her ridiculous interview, who knows when you would have found out. She probably thought she was really smart with that meeting, but nope, that totally gave her trashiness away. And remember, your husband must have mentioned that you're looking for a job, so they're both equally trashy. It's such an insane story that I wouldn't doubt if you guys didn't believe it, but it's unfortunately very true. I, 19 female, work at a library. I work in the children's department along with other co-workers. Think 30s to 50s, as well as other teens. I've been working there since high school, which is how I know Melanie, 18 female. To put it bluntly, Melanie and I are not friends. We used to be friendly back in high school, as we had a couple of the same friends, and we've both been working at our job for years. I would definitely not call us friends currently, though, due to Melanie's attitude. She's that type of person who will ask for a favor, and if you refuse, she'll act like a complete a-hole to you. Once in high school, she asked for a ride home, but I said no, as I had a track meet or something that day and obviously couldn't take her. She huffed and stormed off, glaring at me for like a week before she came back like nothing had happened and asked me for a ride home again. It's clear, too, that she doesn't really see us as friends, as when we work together, she'll ignore me completely or just glare at me, only talking to me if it's something involving our job or if she needs something. If she needs something from me, then suddenly we're best friends, and she'll chat with me like nothing happened. So, yeah, I don't really like her. To the main story. I came to work yesterday afternoon, like 2:30ish, and Melanie was there. Our shifts alternate slightly, where there's like an hour where the two of us are both working before she leaves and I continue my shift. I hadn't seen her since we graduated, so we spent a few minutes catching up. Then she asked me if I could take her home after her shift ended. I was obviously confused, as I still had hours to go before I was done with mine, and I told her such. She then implied that I could use my break time to drive her, and I honestly laughed out loud because I thought she was joking. Our breaks are 15 minutes long. It would take 30 minutes to drive there and back from her home, without traffic. Realistically, it would end up taking like 45 to 60 minutes because of how traffic heavy our area is. B, who wants to spend their time off driving someone home? Melanie was shockingly not joking though, claiming that it would be doable and that she really needed the ride because she had to be home and her mom couldn't take her. I said no, sorry, but no way that's happening. Melanie stormed off and ignored me for the rest of her shift before she, I assumed at the time, left. I didn't think much of the situation, a little amused at her audacity, but whatever. Eventually my time to leave comes, so I wave bye to my coworkers and head outside. That's when I see Melanie sitting outside on one of the bleachers. She immediately perked up after seeing me, running over while I just looked at her. "You're leaving, right? Can you give me a ride?" I was shocked. I flat out asked her if she had been waiting for practically 4 hours for me to leave, even after I said no. She said that no, she walked to our nearby town to do other things before she came back here. But in my opinion, that still counts as her waiting for me to drive her. I was creeped out and honestly pissed off, since it felt like to me that she was trapping me and playing the "you're leaving so you can take me too" card. It took everything in me not to yell or even book it to my car. I calmly told her that I had plans after work. No, I could not take her, and honestly it was insane that she would just wait around and assume I'd take her instead of getting the message and calling someone else. She just stared at me. I think she was shocked I actually stood up to her. With that, I walked to my car and drove off. I really hope she never tries to do that to me or to any of our other coworkers, to be honest. You need to report Melanie's harassment to the head librarian. This will escalate. Couldn't she have spent that 4 hours walking home instead of waiting? That's what I would have done.